Imagine that you are powerful beyond your wildest dreams. Your own unique and powerful soul is your very essence, leading you closer to the true source of beauty, magnificence, and wonder that is found deep within your being. Powerful Soul is about you. It's about helping you uncover the true nature of your soul. Once you understand the power of who you truly are, you will be unstoppable and you will begin to live your best life. This show is a tool to help you, once again, reclaim the power of your soul.
No matter how hard I look, I'm still blind. It's not what you see, but
Welcome to Powerful Soul. I'm your host, Laurie Majka, and I am so glad that you're here. This show is about you. This show is about empowerment. It's about helping you understand the power of your soul. And my mission in life is to help send positive energy into the world. And I really believe that together we can send positive ripples that increase the energy of the world in such a positive way that we'll probably never know the impact that we've truly had. So, welcome to my very first podcast of Powerful Soul. I want to tell you a little bit about what you can expect by tuning into this show. I'm going to be talking about lots of different subjects. All of my subjects are related to the power of your soul and how you can increase that to have the life of your dreams. We'll be talking about things like your soul's vibration and things that you can do to increase your soul's vibration. We'll talk a lot about inspiration. We will talk about love because I truly believe that love is the primary lesson we are here to learn as souls. We'll talk about self-love because really, until you can grasp that concept, embrace it, and become the version of loving yourself, you really can't love anybody else or attract and bring to you the love that you deserve to have in this lifetime. We're going to talk a lot about your soul's purpose and life lessons and maybe what you're here to learn. We'll talk about the signs from passed away loved ones, and the powerful ability that you have to see your own signs. I know that I've seen a lot of them in my life, and I'll be sharing a lot of that. We'll actually be talking about that a little bit later today. I want to talk about what it feels like to be on the other side. I've had a very rare privilege of being on the other side and experiencing the power of my own soul 5 different times in what I'll call a similar to a near-death experience. I'm going to talk a lot about manifestation. It's a practice and something that I've been able to incorporate into my life, and I believe that manifestation is a byproduct of the vibration and the positive emotions that you're experiencing in your daily life in order to increase the ability to manifest what you want to have in your life. I'll be talking about lots of different concepts like soulmates, twin flames, soul contracts, free will. I'll be talking a lot about kindness, gratitude, which is an elevated state of emotion that helps you bring to you the things that you really want to have in this life. We'll talk about happiness. I will talk about one of my concepts that I've developed called the Superpower Challenge. It's an idea around the fact that you truly do have a superpower within you, but you're probably not aware of it. And I'm going to show you how to uncover it and how to utilize it so that you can have the best life. We'll be talking about the whispers from your soul and your guidance on the other side. Things like spirit guides, your passed away loved ones guiding you, and your own higher self guiding you on the path to help you achieve all of the lessons that you've set out to learn while you're here. And I'll be talking about some of the medicine journeys that I've had. So that's what you can expect by tuning into Powerful Soul. And I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about me and my story. So I've had what I'm going to describe as a very mystical life. It didn't start out that way. It took me a long time to get to the place that I am right now. but I do have a very mystical life. And I think that things happen to me that guide me towards being able to share all of these experiences with you so that it can help you see things that you might not be seeing in your own life. I am an inspirational artist. And what that means is that I actually receive inspiration, messages, and artwork from the other side that I've been able to turn into inspirational art to share with the world. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It's something that I call soul heart art. I am also a published author. Back at the beginning of 2020, I published my very first book called Signs Surround You, Love Never Dies, and we'll be talking about that here on the show quite a bit. And I've also recently published 8 little inspirational books from my soul heart art. I am a mother of 2 children. It's hard to call them children anymore because they are young adults. My son is 23 years old and he is a pilot in the United States Air Force. I'm so proud of him and what he's doing with his life. It was his dream to fly, and it's something he's wanted to do since he was 5 years old. My daughter is currently getting her master's degree in California in mental health, and she will be a mental health counselor when she's all done. So, between the two of them, I believe that my son's purpose is to help save the world, and my daughter's purpose is to help heal the world. I am a type 3 on the Enneagram scale. For those of you who follow that and understand what that means I'm the achiever. And you'll probably understand that pretty quickly. I have a life that is very full and very busy, jam-packed with things that I want to do to help make the world a better place. I do have a traditional career. I started out in college in business school at the University of Kansas, and I've worked for lots of very large corporations. I worked for Pitney Bowes starting out, and then I did quit my job to stay home with my kids for about 5 years until I got my youngest into first grade. And then later on, I entered the workforce and I worked for Pfizer as a pharmaceutical sales rep. Pfizer is a Fortune 50 company. I did that for 7 years. I sold 14 drugs, everything from Lipitor to Viagra, calling on all kinds of specialists, pulmonologists, and that was a very intense job, and especially intense for somebody who never took a health class, if you can believe it. The way that my parents moved around and my dad got promoted, I happened to change schools at just the right or wrong time, depending on how you look at it, and never took a single health class. But man, I have made up for it on the back end with all of the testing and studying you had to do to learn how to sell these drugs and talk about them to professionals like pulmonologists and urologists and primary care physicians and internal medicine specialists. So it was a great job. I really loved it, and I got out of that after 7 years and got into technology. I had a job at IBM for several years where I was an account manager selling in the healthcare space, very large outsourcing infrastructure deals. So that was a pretty complex job. Did that for a few years. Then I switched gears and went to a company that you've probably heard of called HP, another Fortune 50 company, where I sold security software for several years. So you can probably tell from the career that I've had that I am very left-brained. So I do have that little element of skepticism in my life, although it's very mystical and kind of like, prove it to me. Prove it to me and make sure that there's nothing else going on that I can use as an explanation. And then right now I do work for a technology company, and I used to be on a plane every other week, but now that we're in the COVID environment, I don't travel very much anymore, and I get to work from my home office, which is great. I spend a lot of time with my dog Storm. She's a blue Weimaraner. She is one of the greatest loves of my life. She's 11 years old, and she is my everyday hiking partner. So we live in Arizona, and we hike a mountain pretty much every day. Um, I also have a lot of really deep friendships, and I've been very fortunate that a lot of my friends have moved out of where they were living to live in Arizona. So that's pretty cool. I definitely have an aspiration to send positive energy into the world, and I've done that through a lot of different things. I am a complete foodie, and maybe that's part of why I climb a mountain every day so that I use enough calories that I can eat what I want. But I love chocolates and I love Diet Mountain Dew, and I think it's really important in your life to have balance so that you are enjoying the things that make you happy and fulfill you. For me, that's spending time in nature and the exercise and making my body feel strong so that I have enough energy to do all these things that I want to do. So, this is my very first podcast, and we are brand new here with Powerful Soul. And I do anticipate at some time in the future that I will have people doing some advertising here. But for now, in our early days, I decided I would do 2 ads per show, and I would talk about things that I thought would be kind of like a public service announcement, or maybe talk about something that is on my favorites list. So we're going to take our first little break right here, right now. And I'm going to talk to you about something that I think is really important, and that is raising your vibration. So if you are not familiar with this concept, we are energy beings, and energy can neither be created nor destroyed. And that means that your soul is eternal. And whatever happens here, despite what it seems like, you really cannot be harmed. But while we're in this earthly body, while our soul is encapsulated in our bodies, we do have to deal with and contend with all of the earthly problems and issues that surround us while we're here trying to learn our lessons. So I believe that our souls vibrate at a certain level, and the vibration actually increases and decreases based on our emotions. So one of the things that I try to do is I try to stay in a positive mindset. And for me, that means staying away from the news. And I know that's probably really hard to think about right now when so many things are going on in our world. But I truly do not watch any news. I don't listen to it on the radio. I don't seek it out on the TV. I really don't even read very much on the internet. If I do want to consume news, it's either through a discussion with somebody that I trust who I know watches the news and keeps their finger on the pulse of what's going on, like my dad or some of my friends. But other than that, I will occasionally consume news where I can read it. But really, in order to stay in the vibration, a higher vibration, I don't like to be surrounded by negativity. And I think a lot of things that we hear in the news are slanted or have negative aspects in how they're presented. So for me, I try to stay in these positive states of elevation, and elevated emotions to me are love, gratitude, happiness, inspiration, encouragement, wholeness. And if you can stay in these vibrations, you'll notice that you feel better, you have more energy, you feel more love, you feel more loving. And I think it affects our vibration in a way that lets us create and manifest and stay on our path so that we can truly create the life that we want to live. Okay, so we're going to go on to a topic that I'd like to share with you. If you found me here on Powerful Soul, there's a good chance that you found me through Soul Heart Art. So I'm going to tell the story for those of you who are not familiar with Soul Heart Art. Soul Heart Art is a publication that I've been producing online since 2014. I created a website for it back in 2013. So the reason that we're actually broadcasting my very first podcast today on August 12th of 2020 is because today is the 13-year anniversary of meeting one of my greatest loves and greatest teachers that I've ever encountered on this earth. And that was a man by the name of Mark Abrahamian. At the time that we met, he was the lead guitarist of the band Starship. I'm sure you've heard of them. Their legacy goes all the way back to Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship, and then they became Starship back in the 80s. Grace Slick was the lead singer. Mickey Thomas came in, and after the band dissembled, Mickey went on to have his own production and brought in his own his own musicians, and Mark was the lead guitarist who traveled and toured with that band for 14 years. He played so many concerts. He brought so much love and inspiration into the world, and he was a very, very deep guy. And he was, like I said, my greatest spiritual teacher. I learned so many things from him. And he unexpectedly died of a heart attack on September 2nd of 2012. He was at a concert uh, in Nebraska, and he had just walked off the stage at the end of the concert and wasn't feeling very well. And he had a heart attack and collapsed at the age of 46, which is way too young to lose somebody. And his death was devastating for me. At the time, we had been together. We had a romantic relationship, but we had ended that and hadn't spoken for 3 years. And one day I had this terrible knowing that he was gone. I had this thought that he had died, and I thought it was such a strange thought to have. So I pushed it away. And later on that morning, I had a second thought that he died. And this time the thought was that he had died in a plane crash. Now I knew when that thought entered my mind, it was not my own. Because if I was going to create a death scene for him, it would have been probably from cancer, lung cancer, from smoking, not from flying. To me, flying is a very safe activity I've spent a lot of my life doing. I would never have thought of him as dying in a plane crash. So I thought about that thought for a little longer before I pushed it away. And then I got on with my morning getting ready. A couple hours later, I received a phone call from my mom and a text message from my dad. My dad had gone into work that day. It was the Tuesday after Labor Day, and he had a monitor of CNN going across the bottom of his computer screen, and he saw that Mark had died after a concert on Sunday. And he immediately texted me the bad news. But for whatever reason, I never saw the text message. And when my mom called me, I didn't hear her phone call come through. And I realized later that it was probably divinely orchestrated that I didn't get either of those messages at the time they were sent, because I would have been driving. And the news, when it hit me so hard. I don't know what I would have done had I been driving. I think it probably wouldn't have been very good. But the news was delivered to me by my mom a short while later, which was kind of amazing that if you're going to get any news about somebody dying, you get it from somebody that you love. In any case, Mark died, and I went on a spiritual quest. I had already been experimenting with spiritual growth and spiritual topics for a number of years by that point in my life. And he definitely accelerated my spiritual growth. And I began reading every book I could get my hands on, every book about a medium, every book that talked about what happens when we die, that our soul goes on and our loved ones really do want to try and connect with us. And I wanted to connect with him. And ironically, I had a medium reading already scheduled before he died. But through a series of events, the medium reading I had got canceled. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And there I was, ready to connect with him with no way to do it. And suddenly, a friend suggested I call an energy healer named Dee Hart. So I did, not really understanding what an energy healer was, what they did, what they could answer. But when I talked to her, she told me that I had a man stuck in my auric field, and she felt that she could help me connect to him. So, of course, I made an appointment and went in to see her. I happened to be holding my phone in my hand when I walked in, and she asked me if I planned to record the session, which I hadn't even thought of doing, but I did, and I recorded my session with her. She did ultimately connect with Mark. She gave me some very special messages, and she told me that he loved me and he would never leave me, and he would be my guardian angel on the other side, which he definitely has fulfilled that promise. He's been gone now for almost 8 years, but that reading was very special, and I would listen to it. In one part of the reading, Dee Dee told me what my heart, what my soul desired, and it said that I was nothing but love. I was pure love, and my heart had these love mantras that it repeated. One day, as I was walking in the woods, listening to Dee Dee's message, and I heard her talking about these love mantras that my heart and my soul were projecting, I suddenly saw this picture of my mind of these two hearts flying. One heart was flying with these banners on it, and the banners were gray and tattered and kind of falling off the heart. And they had things attached to that heart that weren't serving its highest purpose and its greatest good. But there was a new heart flying in the front, flying very strongly with white light around it and brand new white banners on it that held these mantras within them. And it almost seemed like the heart with all of the banners that needed to be changed was going to merge into one with the new heart with all the new mantras that would actually serve the higher, greater purpose of the soul. And I felt compelled to paint this painting. And the irony was, I'm not a trained artist. I'd really never spent any time thinking about art, other than for some reason, 2 years earlier, I had taken a 12-week painting class. And the class really just taught you how to mix colors and kind of how to design the scheme of a painting. But in any case, I went out and bought a canvas and I bought some paints and some paintbrushes. And I spent 2 days creating this painting that I saw in my mind. And after I finished it, I would go on my daily walks, and every day I would get a new painting idea. So I decided to begin painting these little heart paintings. They were all hearts flying with messages. So I would see these hearts flying every day, and I would get done with my walk and I'd grab a piece of paper and I'd quickly jot down the idea. They would just appear in my mind. It wasn't as if I was thinking about a topic like love and trying to decide how I would make a heart and paint a heart that had the subject of love. No, I would see them in my mind and I would just write them down on a piece of paper. And I began to paint these paintings. And for whatever reason, I decided to paint 40 paintings in 40 days. I had so many ideas. I wanted to create them. I don't know why I picked the number 40. 30 sounded like it wouldn't be enough. 50 sounded like it would be too many. And every night I would sit down after dinner and I would begin to paint these paintings. And I started on little tiny canvases and eventually got into bigger 8 by 10 and 9 by 12 canvases. And at the end of the night, I would take a picture of the painting I'd created and I would send a text message and share it with a bunch of my friends and family. And everybody really liked them. And as I was getting near to the 40th painting, I counted the dates and I realized that my 40th painting was going to land on Mark's birthday. Now, you have to understand, this was not anything I'd planned, anything I'd even thought of in advance. This was just divinely orchestrated from the other side. And after that, I decided, with the feedback that I got from my friends and family, people really liked it. And when I stopped painting after my 40th painting, people really missed the paintings. So I decided to create a website so I could share my art with the world and send this inspiration into the world. Originally, the idea was that these were whispers from the soul. So each painting, I would create a little paragraph that described what your soul might whisper to you about that topic, whether it was love or kindness or inspiration. And I created these little posts and I called them soul whispers, daily soul whispers. And I began sharing them. And I had a friend who worked for a company named Demdeco, and they license artwork. And so I applied and I sent my artwork to them, and they decided that I wasn't a known artist and they weren't ready to invest in me that way. But in order to become a known artist, I decided I would create a Facebook page. So back in 2014, I created a Facebook page and I began painting very regularly, and I would create 5 paintings, each with a soul whisper, and post them 5 days a week. And it was almost like a full-time job on top of my full-time job. And after 4 years, I had painted 400 paintings. I don't really paint anymore, but I still share the art on Soul Heart Art on my website through the Daily Soul Whispers and also on Facebook through the Soul Heart Art page. And currently, as of today, the site has about 137,000 followers. And I know over the 7 years I've been creating this and producing it, It has reached millions of people around the world, which is just incredible to me. Also attached to Mark is the book that I mentioned at the beginning of the show that I wrote called Signs Surround You, Love Never Dies. When Mark died, it was a tremendous loss for me, and it was so unexpected. And even though we hadn't spoken for 3 years, there was not a single day that I hadn't thought about him. My life had changed. I probably grew more in the 2 years of knowing him than I had in the previous 40 years before knowing him. And he definitely accelerated my soul growth and probably sent my soul in a different direction, especially now that he helps me on the other side, I believe, with my artwork. But he began sending me signs very soon after he died. I'll share one real quickly because we'll get into this in future episodes. But one of the first signs shared with me was a couple mornings after he had died. I got into my car and I turned it on, and the radio was playing the song by Jefferson Starship, With Your Love. And when the song ended, the radio did not update and change to the new song. It stayed frozen and showed With Your Love. I thought that was really interesting, and I was having a hard time believing it, and my left brain was kicking in, telling me that there must be some logical explanation for this. And so I began pushing buttons, and I would change the station to other XM radio stations. And the songs that were playing on those stations would play, but the screen remained frozen. And then I got real adventurous, and I switched over to AM and FM stations. And the same thing happened. The songs would play, but the screen remained frozen. Now, I mentioned that this was an XM radio station, so I decided there must be something wrong with my XM radio. So I spent about 25 minutes on hold, and I talked to somebody who worked at XM radio and explained the situation. And he said he'd never heard of anything like this happening, thought it must be a fluke with my radio, and offered to reset my radio remotely. And I let him. So he reset it, and nothing happened. The screen stayed frozen with Your Love. I even got in and out of my car twice running errands. And each time when I started the car, there it was, With Your Love. And I was beginning to believe that Mark was really and truly sending me his love from beyond, across the veil, which is a very thin veil between this world and theirs. I drove to my friend's house for lunch. This is a friend who had attended many concerts with me over the years, watching Mark play when he was with Starship. She walked out to the car, looked at the car screen and said, "Hello, Mark." And then when I came out after having lunch with her, it was gone. But that was to be the first of many, many, many signs that he sent me. I began recording these signs because they happen so often, but I also know that our human memory doesn't always retain even very magical things that we think we'll remember forever. So to make sure, I documented them and started this little journal just for myself so that I wouldn't remember all these very special signs he was sending me. I would see license plates with his name on it. All these crazy things would happen that I wrote about in my book. Well, after 2 years, the book was full of signs he had sent me from the other side. And then I had a dream. And in the dream, he told me that he was most proud of our story. And the next day, this book began to write itself. And what I mean by that is, remember I said I'm an inspirational artist. Things come to me in a very unusual way. This book, chapters of this book, appeared in my mind in a form that I would just transcribe them. I wasn't thinking them, I was just transcribing them. Didn't happen for all the chapters, but it happened for a lot of them, or parts of them. And it's not like when you're helping your kids, I help my kids with their homework, and I'd be helping them write a paper, and I'd come up with a great idea, and I'd say it out loud, and then they would say, "Will you repeat that?" And then I couldn't even remember it. So I knew something very special was happening when I was writing this book. So this book is the story of Mark and my relationship. We had an amazing whirlwind courtship, romantic relationship that was unlike anything I've ever had. But it wasn't in the cards for us to be together, and we parted ways. And the second part of the book is about all the signs he sent me. And the reason I wrote it this way is that I believe that by reading my story and seeing the signs that I received, it will help you to understand how this works from a spiritual aspect. And then maybe you can apply what you've read to understand your own signs that you get from your loved ones. Because I'm here to tell you that our loved ones never leave us. Whenever you think about them, they hear your thoughts. If you didn't get the chance to tell them goodbye, don't worry. They heard every thought that you ever shared with them. And every time you think of them, they're right there with you. They know what's going on in your life, and they love you. And they want you to know that they're okay because they truly are whole and happy on the other side. And they know it's just a very short time for them before they'll see you again. So the more in tune you can become to your signs, the more often you'll get them. And then you won't brush them off as coincidences. They're real. They really are real. Okay, I'm going to share a favorite with you today. I'd like to share with you my very favorite book. My very favorite book is called The Afterlife of Billy Fingers: How My Bad Boy Brother Proved to Me There's Life After Death by Kagan. And it's this crazy cool story about this woman whose brother died and began speaking to her from the other side, from beyond the veil, shared with her very evidential information so that she would know without a doubt that it was really him talking to her. And he shared all kinds of ideas from his perspective. He talks about things like what happened when he died, who met him on the other side, what his life is like as a soul on the other side, what his life review is like. He talks about the vibrations of our souls and the beauty of our soul. And so I think it's very fitting that on this podcast, Powerful Soul, that this book brings through the true essence and power that we really and truly are. So I highly recommend this book, and you'll be able to find this on my website, which I'll talk about at the end. I've shared a lot about myself this time, and that's not going to be the norm. This podcast is really designed to be about you and to share these ideas to help you understand the power of your soul. So first of all, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to my very first episode, and I'm super excited to bring more episodes to you. And if you want to connect with me, you're going to be able to find this podcast, Powerful Soul, on Hub for Podcasting or on your favorite podcast platform. And if you want to connect to me, there are lots of ways you can do that. You can connect to me on Facebook at my Soul Heart Art page, which is Soul, Soul, Heart, Heart, Art, ARTXO. You can also connect with me on Instagram under my name, which is Laurie Majka, and it is spelled Laurie, Laurie. The last name is Majka. I also have a YouTube channel, and you can also find me there under Laurie Majka, and a website, lauriemajka.com. And I also have a Soul Heart Art website. If you would like to explore the Soul Whispers, I do post the daily Soul Whispers usually twice a week. I post them on my Instagram page and on the Facebook page and also on my Soul Heart Art website. So you can connect with me there. You can read all kinds of past Soul Whispers. I think I've got 400 of them on there, and definitely check out the blog so you can understand the backstory behind the paintings. On my website, you can find links to the book that I just talked about, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, and I share a few of my favorite movies, all spiritual based. I also have a video on there if you'd like to get a sneak preview of what we'll talk about when I do the episode on the Superpower Challenge. You can connect with that there. I also have links if you would like to purchase my book, Signs Surround You, Love Never Dies. And brand new, I'm announcing for the first time here on this podcast, I haven't even shared it anywhere else. I have 8 Soul Heart art books that are just out right now on Amazon. And they are Whispers of Empowerment, Whispers from the Soul, Whispers of Friendship and Inspiration, Whispers of Gratitude and Happiness, Whispers of Positive Thoughts and Inspiration, Whispers of Encouragement to Love Again, Whispers of Love, and Whispers of Inspiration. Each little 6x6 book is in full color. They each feature 40 Soul Heart art paintings related to their topic. There are no repeats in any of the books, and each one of them has their matching soul whisper. They're a great gift, and I encourage you to check them out if you need some inspiration in your life or know somebody who needs some inspiration in their life. There will be a link on my website that you can purchase them on Amazon. So, again, thank you so much for tuning in. I am so excited to be bringing this podcast to you. Never forget that you are a powerful soul, and the essence of you is pure spirit. You are a soul in a body, not a body with a soul. Part of your lesson here on this earth is to remember who you truly are. You are beautiful beyond measure, and together we can change the world. Thank you, and I look forward to connecting with you again very soon.
So just be you, your beautiful self. 'Cause when you love you, you don't need nobody else. Singing la-di-da-di-da.